Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 now of the FFS tea break. I think everybody's pretty familiar with who we are and what we're doing and the format, but just in case you are not, or you're joining us for the first time today, our FFS tea break is a 15-minute reset. It's a moment where we are joined by a guest to say out loud the things that make us go, for fudge's sake, and then have a little bit of a rant and then share some tips, some ideas, some thoughts of how we can all figure our way through these moments. So today I am absolutely delighted to be joined by the magnificent Matt Smeed, a wellbeing expert, a fellow data geek. I'm always happy to be joined by another data nerd, a psychosocial risk fanboy, and a 3 times, am I right, member of HR Magazine's most influential thinkers list. So setting you up for big things for the next 15 minutes.
Well, you can take your choice in the background. I've just spotted. So there's my HR influential thing 3 times in a row. Yeah. But more importantly, best dad ever. So, take your choice. Between the two.
Well, welcome, Matt. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to throw straight over to you and say, go for it. What is your FFS moment that you're bringing along today?
Cool. So I wish I could do this in a really concise way. I will try my best, or maybe I'll just speak very quickly. But yeah, I was having to think about this. So basically, my FFS moment is my own, probably maybe not daily, but certainly weekly, definitely monthly existential crisis that I have about well-being. So let me explain it. So look, I've been working in the space of well-being for like 20 years now, nearly. So I think about going back 20 years. And I'm attending events and people are talking about well-being and how we're turning a corner and it's going to be taken seriously and it needs to be on the top table and all that sort of stuff. So then people went away and they did lots of good work and there was some good stuff that went on. And I would say about a decade ago, there was lots being done in the area of well-being. So it really kind of ballooned in terms of the industry. Everyone was talking about it. Awareness was certainly higher. But the problem was it probably shifted a little bit too far towards like the soft and fluffy stuff. So, let's just do something. So that was your yoga and yogurt and fruit drops in the office and all that sort of stuff. Then wind forward a few more years and the technology explosion came. So there were apps for everything. You need this app, you need this video content, mental health first aid came along. So it was all very like technology based, heavy. And then I saw a shift in probably the last 18 to 24 months where it was people railing against that and saying, no, we don't need any of that stuff. Instead, it needs to be a real kind of systemic, preventative, proactive, strategic approach to well-being. So that came through. And now there's almost one, it's got very meta, where it's like, well, yeah, we do need a strategic approach to it, but don't throw the benefits away at the same time. Fruit in the office is actually quite a nice thing. By the way, a little bonus FFS alongside all of this is the role that like evidence-based practice plays, which, as I say, I'm big into my data. I love evidence-based practice, but then that kind of blows my mind at points where you've got people from academia saying, oh, no, you should do this because this is what the data says. But the data they have is flipping useless and not practical in any kind of way.
Yeah.
And so in lots of words, what is my FFS moment? It's like maybe just the current landscape of the well-being industry, if I'm going to go that big, and the fact that we've got more well-being leaders than ever before, but they're all in different parts of the business. They've all got kind of different backgrounds. They've got a huge mix of skills and experience. We've got loads of money being invested in tech and apps and all the rest of it, but do any of them make any sort of difference? We've got a proliferation of well-being experts who don't have any expertise or experience at all. We've got awards that are being handed out left, right, and center for things that I don't think are that impressive. And I go to talks and events that are the same people speaking about the same stuff that was 20 years ago where the story started. And there's a risk that sometimes we live in an echo chamber. So there you go. There's my existential crisis. Like, have we really moved on, being that this is all in the context of mental ill health being higher than it ever has been, suicide rates going up, sickness, absence, and productivity crisis, and a prevailing, by the way, I'll finish with this, my rant. A prevailing feeling from normal people, like my mates who do finance and are accountants and all that sort of stuff, that well-being is just bullshit, right? So we think we've made loads of progress. Then I chat to my mates and they're like, oh, bloody, what's this well-being thing? Would let me do my actual job.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's my moment.
And breathe out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt that. That's
Thanks.
it feels like, and listening to you, and obviously my knowledge and experience of the wellbeing space in different aspects of work. Do you think it's fair to say we've overcomplicated to quite a significant extent?
Yeah, possibly. Well, it's not maybe not overcomplicated. It's just there's so much, isn't there?
Yeah.
And actually, if I was working within a business, as a well-being leader, it's almost like, where do you start with this stuff? Do I put? Yeah, I guess we'll move on to advice. But if I'm thinking to myself, where do I start? Do I put fruit into the office because that seems like a nice thing to do? But then I hit up LinkedIn and I'm like, oh no, I don't do that because someone's telling me that's a terrible way of doing well-being. I should have a strategic approach. So I'm like, right, I'm going to go away and spend 6 months writing up this document, this approach, which, like you say, probably is overcomplicating it. And then you probably finish writing that, and at the end of it, there's someone with their hand up in front of you, like, can we have some free fruit, please? That you should have given us 6 months ago. So yeah, whether it's complicated or whether it's just like it feels broad and like unwieldy at times. And I guess what this is all triggered by the fact that people are desperate, myself included, right, to find some sort of magic bullet. Like, it would be amazing if you could just find that thing, find that app that you just implement it, and then everyone's blissfully happy. No one's ever off sick ever again. It doesn't exist, but there's a risk that in the hunt for that, rather than aiming for consistency, and this is just a thought that's coming to me now, but rather than just like consistently being good in this area, we try to like find the new thing, ditch the old thing, throw the baby out of the bathwater when it comes to some of the stuff that we've been told by LinkedIn now doesn't work, this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that feels quite like, to me, that feels quite applicable to workplace initiatives generally. When you lift them, even when you lift it out of the wellbeing space, we're seeing so much, and I think this is just reflective of like the wider world and society. It's like fads and trends, and exactly as you said, this is the next big thing that we need to jump on, and everybody jumps on it, and it maybe works for a little bit, but it doesn't. You need to strip it right back and go back to the initial question of, why are we doing this? What are we trying to solve by doing this thing? Or what output do we want to achieve from doing this particular thing, and boiling it back to, like, taking it right back to the start and right back to the basic?
Yeah, absolutely. And stuff gets renamed, right? That's something that happens. Whereas actually, when you're talking about like some of the wellbeing initiatives, it's like job satisfaction, right? It's going back to the stuff that was done on job satisfaction like 30, 40 years ago. And it's, like you say, well, if you look at psychological wellbeing, basically it's pleasure and purpose. So am I coming to work and have I got a smile on my face, enjoying what I'm doing, connected to other people? And do I feel like what I'm doing is worthwhile and has a purpose? And that's it. Simple as that. Now, mechanism to be able to achieve that is difficult, and like you mentioned at the start, I'm really interested in psychosocial risk, which is, I guess, another side of this, which is ultimately, before you even get there, you've got to not do some harm, create a space where you're not causing harm. Once you've not caused harm, then you can unlock some of that purpose and positivity as well.
Yeah. But I think there's a need to kind of to bracket around that, an understanding of sometimes the jobs that people do, like, it's never going to be without challenge. Like jobs, there will always be challenge at some point. There will be some busyness at some point. There might be some tight deadlines, depending on what you're doing. That there are so many roles and industries that we could list now where there are particularly like really significant challenges that people face, but it's having the I don't want to say network, but the support or something that surrounds that allows for, I hate the word resilience. I have a real allergic reaction to the word resilience, but it is, isn't it? It's not just putting that need for resilience on the individual. It's creating resilience at the business or the organizational level. So when things are a bit tough or a bit sticky, which is always going to happen and lift, there are the things in place that support individuals, teams, and the organization to go through that.
Yeah, well, that's where psychosocial risk comes in, because they're the fundamentals. Like, yeah, if you've resourced your team properly, well, then if someone goes off work sick for something that's completely unavoidable, you don't fall over and everybody else gets stressed because you're not running the business like, right on the line of what's possible in terms of resource, control and autonomy. You've not got single points of failure because you've not delegated anything to anybody. You've hoarded the power at the top of a business, so I could describe psychosocial risk factors as like the fundamentals. Like, get those right, and actually it safeguards you against some of the harm. And like you say, I'm not a big fan of the word resilience either, just because it's used to shift the responsibility. But it is that, really, in terms of, if you've got that, it means that when these difficulties do come along, you're more able to adapt to them rather than falling over.
Yeah, exactly. So for someone who's grappling with this at the moment, or looking, or like you say, looking at their LinkedIn feed and going, oh my God, there's so many, like, where do I even start?
Yeah.
Does something like psychosocial risk feel like a good place to start, or would you see somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I'm biased, right? Yeah, I think it's a good place to start. I think it's a good place for organizations to start. I was trying to think of some advice or look to the future, because I was hoping that you'd know the answer to my rant, and then I could go away from this like blissfully happy, as I talked about before.
We could both retire and just
A few things that came to mind. One is, well, one that's just come to mind as you mentioned it, is stay off LinkedIn. And that goes for me as well. It's not all the time. It does have its benefits, but the comparison is a thief of joy, right? So it can be quite demoralizing seeing everything that's going on, and it can demotivate you from what you're actually doing, rather than just aiming for consistency. What else did I think? I thought that wellbeing leaders need to lift each other up. I've talked about this before. I actually feel like wellbeing leaders, in many different guises, hold themselves to too high an account sometimes. They feel like they need to do the job perfectly and prove everything with a business case and a ironclad evidence base. And then I see other parts of businesses like marketing and finance and all the rest of it not doing any of that, but still having the confidence that what they're doing is making a difference. So there is something about having some confidence. I do sometimes also wonder whether that's linked to this is a bit out there. Correct me if you think I'm completely wrong, but the wellbeing industry being more female heavy than male heavy, and I'd open it up to HR as well. And all the research that we know, that essentially men are far more likely to just be confident and say, what I'm doing is making a difference, even if it's flipping not, it goes too far the other way sometimes. You've heard the things about applying for a job, and it's like, I tick 3 of those things on the list of 20 things, so I'll apply for it, whereas females want all 20. So I do wonder whether sometimes there's some of that playing in. But even if that's not true, I do think there's something about wellbeing leaders in general kind of lifting each other up, not taking shots at each other. The idea that a rising tide raises all boats, right? We need some really good case studies, and I'd love people to share this stuff, not just to get an award, but so that it actually makes a difference. And then I mentioned academia before. I'd love them to actually work with businesses a little better, rather than just, because sometimes it can feel like they're just sat there like telling us off for what we're not doing. You should be doing this. Where's your random control trial? And it's like, right, yeah, but how are you working with businesses to actually make a difference, not just monitor this sort of stuff and telling them off?
Rather than sit. And you've got, I don't know if you can see the comments. You've got some support from Paula here, absolutely, on the wellbeing leader piece of there being like a wellbeing leader standard and having that confidence. And Paula said here, and I think this is absolutely it, less feeling like you need to own the whole solution. And I think like there's if we're looking at wider culture work as well, there's definitely that, we see that of like the responsibility, we see the responsibility being framed as sitting in HR and HR alone, No, absolutely not. It's you maybe got those with their hands around it in that particular place, but it is not one individual or one small group owning the whole thing and making the whole thing work and lift. It's, you know, setting the standard, and as you say, having the confidence of these things work. We know these things work. We've seen them work, and this is how we need to implement it. But lifting it out of that fluffy, nice to have space and this is essential, so that everybody in this work environment can do their job and do it well in a way that's well resourced and supported and clear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So back yourself, share for the sake of sharing, especially the good and the good stuff. But then also, I wish people would like admit that they don't know what they're doing as well, because I should do that more often. Like, I've worked in this space for 20 years, but I wish I had the answer. I wish I had like the magic bullet for this stuff, but I don't. I'm still working it out. And I think, especially when I see, and this isn't again a knocking like in-person events, because I do think there's value in some of those conferences and events, but you know, sometimes I feel like the title needs to be like a solution, you know, like how to fix your thing in the business, or what we did to create this amazing. Like, wouldn't it be great if you saw a title that was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, let's work it out together? That'd be pretty cool. But
oh, wouldn't it? Just some honesty. Wouldn't that be refreshingly wonderful to bring everybody together? Right. 15 minutes is not long enough, is it? It is. We have gone over slightly, but I think we have kept everybody with us. Thank you so much, Matt. That was just, I think there was a lot in there that people watching can absolutely connect with, but some really useful bits as well around, you know, coming together and supporting one another through it, backing yourself, and something in there for those of us psychologists, I think, to better bridge that gap between academia and real world for evidence-based practice. And I'm with Paula, you've got more answers than most, absolutely. So
that's a worry. That's a worry. Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, really appreciate it.
No worries, it was an absolute delight. Thanks for joining us.
And I'll see you soon.